Testing, testing. Oh, great. Can everyone hear me now? Oh, nice. Okay, cool, cool. Um, yeah, so the audio quality is going to be different for today. Um, yeah, okay. So I'm using a different mic for today's stream, so hopefully it still sounds okay. I'm not sure what's going on with my other mic here, but let me see if I can fix it really quick. Do audio. Yeah, I'm trying to think because I just updated OBS, so I think it kind of messed with my audio. All right, well, sounds good. I'll just continue with the live stream with the current microphone because I see there's quite a few in the chat room now, so I don't want to leave everyone kind of waiting. So yeah, I was mentioning at the beginning of the live stream, and thank you for the birthday wishes. Yeah, nice, sounds good. Yeah, it was a good birthday. I don't know if I was mentioning that it was a good birthday. You know, we had some good food and took the dog with us, and yeah, it was a good time for sure. But yeah, in the beginning, I was mentioning that we're going to build this today. So for anyone who's new to these live streams, I do these every Monday through Thursday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time, and we cover everything Webflow. I go over how to build websites in Webflow and different layouts. I also cover how to build interactions and animations in Webflow, and I provide support via Super Chat if you need assistance with your site. So in today's build, we're going to build out this blog page. So we're going to use the CMS, the content management system in Webflow, along with kind of Flexbox to design this blog page. And it just has a nice little interaction when we hover. And yeah, so that's what we're going to build today. And feel free to ask questions as I'm building. So yeah, I was going over today's agenda. Today's live stream is 10/6/2021, Wednesday. And for the agenda, we're gonna from 12 to 12:30, we're gonna build a CMS blog section layout that I just showcased. Then from 12:30 to 12:40, I'll field any questions about the build. And then from 12:40 to 1 p.m., we'll have a general Webflow discussion, and I'll provide any super chat support if you need assistance with your site or you want me to build something specific so that you can apply it to your own site. And one thing I'll mention too, if I build something that's specific to your question, I can provide it the read-only link, and I can make it clonable so you can use the project for yourself as well. All right, so yeah, that's what I was mentioning before the mic issues, but yeah, I'll go ahead and get started. This is what the site looks like in Webflow. I have a blank project here, and yeah, so before I get started, and those of you who have come to my live stream quite often know I like to start with kind of picking fonts and creating a style guide. So for this site, the font that I used, and I used this website here called typewolf.com. He goes over like the 40 best free Google fonts. And so I just take a look at this page here, and then I decide, okay, what font do I want to use for today? And today I decided to use Work Sans. And it's a really nice font. I used it for the headings, And then I used Inter for the paragraphs because Inter is kind of close to Helvetica, and I like that font for paragraphs. So I picked that font, and then I created a style guide. So if you're interested in kind of creating style guides, material.io has this nice little feature where you can type in your font, and they provide a style guide for you for like the headlines, the headings, and the paragraphs. So just wanted to cover that really quick. I do cover this in a few previous live streams. So in this live stream, I'm not going to spend too much time on the headings. I'll spend a little bit of time. So we'll go ahead and create a style guide, and we'll install the font. So we have our style guide. For the body, I'm going to make it black. So I like using a variation of black. So I like using 181818, and sometimes I use other variations. I don't like using the 000 black because it's so dense, it's so pixel dense, and it looks too, like, it grabs too much density for the monitor. So I like using a lighter version of black, and it's easier on the eye, I feel. So that's just kind of a thing there. And then I'll install the fonts. I'll go into the fonts here. And yeah, if anyone here is new with Webflow or has just started with Webflow, feel free to share your experiences in the chat. Feel free to kind of talk about your pain points, you know, what you feel could be easier, or what you've struggled with, or anything like that, and we can discuss it as I'm building, and we can also discuss it afterward near the end of the build, or near the end of the live stream. So I'll go ahead and install Work Sans, this font here. It does have a lot of fonts. I don't need all of them, but you know, I add italic just in case I might need it at some point. And I'll add the font, and then I'll add Inter, and this just has a few fonts here. Add font, looks good. I'll go into the designer, and we have our fonts. Nice. So I'll go to the style guide. For the style guide, I'm just going to add a few headings. So I'll hit Command K. So Command K is the quick find. I'll add a heading, the H1. Then I'll copy and paste this, and I'll add an H3 heading. Because for this site here, I'm just using the H1 heading here, and these are H3 headings, and the paragraph for here. Oh yeah, and again, this was inspired off this kind of wireframe template that I'm using. And I just select different wireframes here, and then I build them out in Webflow. So this is kind of this here. I just grabbed this layout and built it here in Webflow. So just a bit of reference there. So we have the H1 and the H3. So I'll style the all H1 headings, and I'm going to reference, like I could reference the material.io sizes, but I decided to reference the sizes here from this Figma file, just to try to replicate it a bit more closely. So for this, for the H1, they use 48 pixels for the size. So I'll go in here, I'll change the font to Work Sans, and I'll change the color to white, and I'll make it Work Sans light, and the size was 48, and the line height I'll make it unitless, and we'll say like 1.3, and I'll call this heading H1. And then the H3 heading, let's style that. So this is also Work Sans, and we'll say normal for the font weight, and the size is 32, and the color is white. Alright, and that looks good. And also, I will use material.io for some of this here. So like the headline has a letter spacing of -1.5. So I kind of want to apply that attribute. So -1.5. And the H3 heading doesn't have any letter spacing. Okay, cool. So we have our H3 and our H1. That looks good. Then we'll add our paragraph, and we'll style the all paragraphs. I'll change the color to white, The font is Inter right here. The size is 16 and the line height I think is like 1.7 unitless. Yeah, that looks good. Alright, cool. So we have our style guide. Those are the three kind of typography units I'll be using. Great. So Kaveta 13 wrote, I'm new to your live stream and Webflow. Do you do site reviews? I could do with some guidance. Yes, Kavita, I do site reviews. That is a super chat request. So using the super chat feature, you can just leave me whatever you want, and I'll be happy to review your site live. And if you have the read-only link, I can take a look at your build and kind of see where I would improve things and things like that. So if that's something that interests you, just drop a super chat. Any amount is appreciated, and then just drop a link to your site. You'll have to put spaces for your site, or you can send me the link via webdevforyou.com. Send it via the contact page, and I'll take a look during this live stream. All right, cool. So nice. So yeah, we have our typography all set. So let's go to the home page. And so right now it's blank. And because this is a blog page, we're gonna get all this text from the content management system. So in Webflow, to create a content management system, we just go here to the CMS, and we'll create a collection. So I'll create a CMS collection, and I'm just gonna grab a collection template. So I'm going to say blog posts. Webflow provides a few templates that you can start with. So Phoebe asked, what Figma style guide did you use? Did you make it yourself? Purchase a guide to customize? So I use Envato Elements. That's a great question, Phoebe. I have Envato Elements, subscription to Envato Elements, and they provide an enormous amount of design assets, including Figma files. So it's a subscription. I pay a certain amount a month, and I have it in the description area for the live streams. I am an affiliate with Envato, so if you decide to subscribe via that link, I get a commission. But that's kind of a little plug there. But it's probably the most amazing subscription I've been a part of. They provide like an unlimited of great design resources, and it's not like cookie cutter design resources. It's actually stuff that you could use on professional websites. They provide illustrations, photos, Figma files, Photoshop files, anything you can think of, they provide it. So, and it's all, you just pay a monthly subscription and you get access to a lot of content. So I saw this wireframe template and I just downloaded it. It is called, what's this one called actually? C-Wire. This one's called C-Wire. And I saw this Figma file and I decided that this would make some great content for the live streams. So I just go through every live stream and I pick one layout that I want to build, and I build it before the live stream, and then we rebuild it in the live stream. So it just gives us content to create different things. So Ghostless wrote, sent you the website. Cool. Nice. I'll check that out in 1 second. So we're gonna do the super chats near the end of the live stream. First, we're gonna go through the build up until 12:30, and then I'll check out the email Ghostless, and I'll take a look. All right, and if I do feel like it's a super chat feature, I'll let you know, and you can just drop me a super chat, and we can spend some time with it. All right, cool. So back to the site. Yeah, we'll try to stay on track here with the site. So Webflow provides different templates that you can use. So I'm going to use a blog post template because, you know, it's a blog that we're going to create. So I'll click blog posts and I'll say create collection. And then I'm going to add 10 items, so you can add sample items. So I'm going to add 10 items. And now I have 10 sample blog posts I can go in. And for the blog post collection list, we have the name, the post body, the post summary, the main image, thumbnail image, the color, if it's featured, and all that good stuff. Yeah, no worries, Phoebe. All good. For sure. And cool. So we have our sample items all there, and I can reference these in the collection list. So now that we've added that, let's go continue with building the site. So anytime I start a build, I add sections and containers. So I'll start with a section, and I'll call this blog section. Then I'll add a container, and I'll call this container. And I'll give it a max width of 1440, and set the width. Okay, the width is 100%, that's good. Great, and then in here I'm gonna add the collection list. So to reference elements from the CMS, you need to add a collection list. So I'll go ahead and add a collection list, and I'll reference the blog posts collection. Okay, so notice we have 10 different collections here, collection items. So I can add, for example, if I add an image, and here I can get the image from the main image from the blog post, you'll notice that we have all these different images, and those are being pulled from the CMS, because each of these has a main image. So it's pulling this information from the content management system. Okay, I'm going to undo that because I don't want to reference the image right now. And for this one, at the moment, I only want to show 3 blog posts for this page. So I can click on, if we look at the structure, so we have the blog section, we have the container, and then we have the collection list wrapper in the container. And here I can select the collection list wrapper, go to element settings, and here I can limit the items to only show 3, and I can start it at 1. Okay, so that looks good. I'll go ahead and give everything a class name. So that's just a practice I like to do. Like if an element doesn't have a class name, I just like to go through, especially for collection lists. I like to just go through and give them class names, just to keep everything kind of organized. So collection item, cool, looks good. No worries, Yao. All good. Yeah, we're building this kind of blog page here from a CMS. Okay. All right, so we have our 3 collection items. So all I have to do here is just style one collection item, because as you add one thing to one collection item, it adds them to all of them. So I'll hit Command K, I'll add a div block, and I'll call this blog card wrapper, because I'm considering kind of each of these a blog card. And yeah, you can make this a link block, or you can just make the read more button the link block. It's kind of up to you how you want to design that. But yeah, we have the blog card wrapper, and then I'm going to add another div block. And let's see what I did here for this site. Might just reference it a bit just to see blog card wrapper, and then this is the, yep, cool. So we have this one, and I thought I gave it a name here. Yeah, blog card wrapper. Yep, this div block is going to be the blog card image wrapper. And I'm going to set this blog card image wrapper to 60%. And actually, before we do that, let's select the blog card wrapper and set it to flex, horizontal, and align stretch, and justify left. So now we have this blog card image wrapper. Now I can set this to 60%. Yeah, 60%. And then here inside the blog card image wrapper, let me select it here, hit Command K. I'm going to add an image. And yeah, for the blog card image wrapper, I'm going to set the height to 450. Then for the image, I'm going to get the image from the main image from the blog post. And yeah, that looks good. And I'll call this blog card image. And let's see here. So blog card image, height 450. Nice. And we want to give a border radius to this. So I'm going to say 30 to the blog card image wrapper. And I'm going to set the overflow to hidden. Hey, Farrell, thank you. Appreciate it. Nice, thank you. So we got a super chat from Riola. Sorry, I'm probably butchering your name. But super chat, appreciate it. Dope. So yeah, if you have a site you want me to look at, just let me know and I'll take a look. But yeah, so I applied the overflow hidden to the blog card image wrapper, and then to the blog card wrapper, I'm just gonna, or to the collection item, I'm gonna add a margin bottom of like 60. to add some space there. And yeah, that looks good. So yeah, when it comes to collection items, it's a bit more involved because we're dealing with these pre-made elements. So we have the collection list wrapper, we have the collection list, the collection item, and then for each collection item, I'm kind of structuring the site inside of the collection item. So we have the blog card wrapper. The blog card image wrapper is 60% in width, and then we have the blog card image inside of this wrapper here. Okay, and then to the section, let me add 100 padding to the top and to the bottom, so we have some space at the bottom and the top. And then the left and the right, I like to add 10 VW for the left and the right. All right, cool. And that just gives us some space as we're building the site. And then for the image, let me set it to cover. And the height, I'll say 100%. Yeah, that's better. So it fills in the width 100%. There we go. Yeah, so setting it to 100%, and I don't think I need to set the height to 100%. Yeah, I do actually, 100%. And then setting the fit to cover, just make sure it fits nicely in there. So I know I went over a lot there. Hopefully everyone was able to follow. If you have any questions about that, let me know. But yeah, we basically added a div block called blog card image wrapper, set it to a width of 60%, a height of 450, then placed the image in there with a width and height of 100%. And the fit, we set it to cover, so it fills the entire div block. Okay, cool. So let's add the right side, which is the content. So I'll add another div block. And because this blog card wrapper has a flex setting of horizontal and horizontal, align stretch and justify left, this div block is now to the right side of this image. All right, looks good. And I'll call this blog card content wrapper. And we'll set this to a width of 40%. And that looks good. And then I'll go ahead and add all of the kind of text here. So we have this text right up here. It's called development, and then we have the date. So I'll go ahead and add a div block, and I'll call this blog card top wrapper. And in here, I'll add a text link, and I'll call this category text, or blog card category text. And you know, if we did have a category page, we could link it out to a category page or kind of a page that had more of the same collection items in it. So here I'll just say development for this text. And for this text, I think I used work sans, the color white, and made it, it's all caps, remove the underline, and let me just reference it here. I think letter spacing of 2, 12 and 2. Okay, cool. So letter spacing of 2 and a font size of 12. All right, looks good. For the blog card image wrapper, I'm just going to add some margin of like 60 to separate these two. All right, so we have the text link here for the category, and this can be linked out to anything. And you could also reference, if you had like a category for each blog post, you could reference the text from the blog post category. So each individual collection item could have its own unique category that's pulled in from the collection list. All right, so I'll add a text block here, and I'll call this blog date wrapper. Okay, and we have it here. Let me style it, make it white, and work sans. That looks good. So for this blog card top wrapper, I'm going to set it to flex so that these are next to each other, and I'll add some margin to this development text. Okay, and then for this text block, I'm going to grab the date, the published on date, and I'm going to say, October 6, 2021. That looks good. So I actually have to publish the site in order for that date to appear, because it is the published on date. So now we can see it because I published the site. And again, I'll call this blog date wrapper, or blog date text. All right, cool. And I'm going to make this a little bit gray. So something like this. think I use C3, C3, C3. All right, cool. So we have the category and the date. That looks great. And let's go ahead and add this heading. So I'll go ahead and add a heading, and I'll say H3. It's already styled, perfect. I'll grab the text from the name of the blog, and it looks good. So this line height needs adjustment, so let me go into the style guide, go into the H3, and give it a 1.3 line height, something like that. Okay, let's go to the home page, see how that looks. That looks much better. Then I'll add a paragraph. Awesome, we'll get the paragraph text from the post summary. And looks good. Awesome. So I can go ahead and give these headings a custom class to add some more margin. So for this, I'd say like blog heading or blog card heading, and maybe give it like 40, something like that. There is one more thing I actually forgot to do. So in the blog card content wrapper, I'm going to add another div block. I'm going to place it here, and I'm going to place the blog card top inside of this div block, and the heading and the paragraph. And I'll call this blog card content top, something like that. And the reason I'm doing this, and I'll showcase this in a second, so I want to add a button now. And now let's style this button. It's just going to say read more, and I'll say give the class name blog card button, and we'll set it to work sans, and we'll make it, the text is white. So for the background, I'm going to remove this blue background, just set it to transparent, and I'll add a border at the bottom here, and I'll set it to white and make it 3 pixels. So we have this little border here. And then for this content wrapper, for that div block that we just added, I'm going to set it to flex, vertical, align left, and justify space between. So what this does is it puts this read more button at the bottom, and it ensures that it's at the bottom for every card, right? If I were to put it at the bottom using like, or not using Flexbox, if I were to say display block, then each of these buttons would be in a different position relative to how much text was in the summary. But by using flex and saying justify space between, it always puts this button at the bottom, which is what we want. So now I can select this blog card content wrapper. I can hold down shift to add some padding. So I'm going to add about 20 pixels of padding just to add some space at the bottom and the top. I can even do something like 40. 40 might look even better. No, it's too much. So 20 pixels of padding, and looks good. Hello WebDev, quick question. Are you going to make the project you made using Animate.js about animating the letter Q available to clone? Yeah, I can, Pablo. Maybe I'll make a specialized video just on that that topic and make it about 10 minutes, and then I'll provide a clonable project. Yeah, I'll do that for sure. Yeah, so for this blog card top wrapper, I'll give it like maybe 10 pixels. Okay, it's not doing anything because there's not enough space. But yeah, I think that looks good anyways. Cool. And let me add a bit more margin to each collection item, maybe 80. I like some good spacing there. All right, cool. So then in the blog card wrapper, or the container here, yeah, the container, I'm gonna add a heading. Gonna place it at the top, and yeah. Is that how I want to do this? Let me see here. Yeah, no, I added a wrapper for sure. Yeah, I never like adding elements in the container. So div, we're gonna call this blog wrapper. So you might notice that I use wrappers a lot, and wrappers just give me the flexibility to apply different layouts to elements inside of a wrapper. So when I use a wrapper, it's because I want to give specific sections different layouts using Flexbox or grid. So yeah. So I I always like to leave the container as is. Like I never like to apply a flex setting to the container because I reuse the container multiple times across different sections on the site. So sections sometimes differ, but the container I like to keep it the same across the entire site. All right, so for the blog wrapper, we have the heading, and I'll put the collection list wrapper inside of the blog wrapper. So now for the blog wrapper, I can say flex, vertical, and align center. So our heading is in the center, and I'll call this blog heading, and we'll give it the text. We'll say our latest news. Latest news, cool. And then I can give some margin, let's say 60, maybe even 80. Cool. Yeah, so that's how we designed this blog page. We added a CMS, and we pulled in the content from the CMS. For this read more button, yeah, that looks good. Actually, for the button, I'm going to remove the padding. There we go. So it's just directly under the text. And cool, that looks good. So now let's make it responsive. So I'm going to publish and we can see what it looks like. Actually, let me replace some of these images too because I don't like these images. So I downloaded some images here that I have from Unsplash. So let me just replace. And I think I used this one. I'll save it. I'll use this one. Yeah. Save. And we have this one. And I think I used this image here. Cool. Okay, 10 web designs. Can't miss. Oh, I thought I replaced that. Okay, cool, save. That's replaced. And this one. Okay. There we go, perfect. Okay, so I'll go ahead and publish. And let's take a look. All right, nice. So that's how we design a blog page using the CMS. And let's make it responsive. So to make it responsive, I can just go in here. For the blog card wrapper, I can change it to vertical. And I can set it, let's see here. Yeah, vertical. Then for the blog card image wrapper, set it to 100%. And for the blog card content wrapper, also set it to 100%. And then for the image wrapper, I can just give it some margin to the bottom, maybe 40. That looks good. I would remove the padding from here so it aligns with the image at the top. And there we go. So we're starting to get a responsive site there. I'll add some more margin here, 100. That looks good. And let's go to mobile landscape. That still looks good. I actually like that a lot. Let me give some margin here to the paragraph. So I'll call this blog card paragraph. And I'll say something like 40 to give some spacing there to the read more button. Yeah, liking that. And then mobile landscape. So here I would change the size of the blog card image wrapper to maybe 250 instead of 450, so it's more squarish. And I like that. Our latest news, I'll center it. Let's see, that looks good. Just center that there. And I'm liking that. I might change the size of some of this text, but for now that's looking okay. Very nice. So we have a fully responsive blog page, and that's how we build that. So hopefully you learned something new in this live stream. Let me know if you have any questions about this build. I'll quickly go over the structure of the site, but yeah. Oh, we didn't build the interaction, so let me do that real quick. So for the interaction, it's fairly simple. So when we hover over the blog card wrapper, this entire section, we'll go to interactions, click the mouse hover. I'll start an animation. click the plus, and I'll say blog, if I can type here, blog card hover in, and we'll grab the image, we'll say scale it to 1.2, and we'll rotate it 5 degrees on the z-axis, or maybe 10, make it a bit more pronounced, and something like that. So let me see here. Scale, we might have to scale it a little bit larger. Actually no, 1.2, and then we'll rotate it just 5 degrees. Yeah, so it doesn't pop out of the wrapper. Okay, 0.3, we'll give it an easing of ease. Alright, cool. So play that. Yeah, it looks good. Save it, and then start an animation. I'll duplicate this. I'll say blog card hover out, and then we'll scale it back to 1, and we'll rotate it back to 0. Alright, so now if I preview, we have a little hover effect over these elements. Okay, and that's it. So it might be worth setting this blog card wrapper to a link block. We'd have to remove this link block here because you can't have a link block in a link block. But if you did, you could right click, say convert to link block after removing this read more button and just making it a text block. So if I delete this, for example, let me just delete it, and then I can right click, convert to link block. Oh, and this is a link element, so I have to delete those two, convert to link block. And now when the user hovers, they can just click on the entire thing and it would take them to the blog page. Or you could just have the read more button, and you could say here, click on this purple icon, and then click to current blog post, and then it would, because we created a blog post collection list, we now have a blog post template for each blog post, right? So you would just have to create and style one page, and you'd have 10 different blog posts from that one page, and then on this page you could link out to each individual blog post. Alright, so I'll publish one more time, and that was a lot of information to cover in just a few minutes. If you need help with collection lists, Webflow University covers collection lists in great detail, but I just wanted to give a quick overview here in this live stream. Alright, so yeah, if there's no questions, so Ghostless wrote, if it's about making it responsive for a client, do you also change anything on high displays like 1440 and 1920? That's a great question. It depends. I mean, for this, I'm using a container of 1440. So if the width of the screen is 3000 pixels, for example, this is how it would look. Excuse me. I could add a 1920 breakpoint. Let's create it. And so at 1920, this is what it would look like. So that still looks pretty good to me. The text is a little bit smaller, but it's up to you to decide if you want to kind of make this text larger. But yeah, we can go to 3000. It does look fairly small for like a 3000 pixel screen. So yeah, it's up to you, like if on 1920 you want to make this text larger or smaller. But yeah, it's just kind of a personal preference. And I don't know, well, the resolution of my screen is, let me see here. And it also has to do with your system font, like how large your fonts are. Let's see. Yeah, I'm using 1920 by 1080. That is the resolution of my screen. Yeah, and it looks good. So when I preview here on this site, it looks great. Yeah, it could have to do with my font settings as well. Yeah, responsiveness can get really in depth. And in cases like that, I would just consult with your client and have him look at different screens. Like if he has a large screen and he says, oh, everything is too small, then just create a 1920 and make things larger for the screen. Or use the wizardry method, which I cover in great detail in my previous live streams. Yeah, the wizardry method is where you would set the body of the font size of the body to 1 VW, and then you would use M's. So I would go in here into the style guide, and I would use M's. So instead of 48 pixels for this H1, Yeah, I would do all H1 headings. I would do like 3 M's maybe, or 2.5 M's. Or just leave it at 3 M's. And line height unitless, and then for the H3, I would say 2 M's maybe, 2 or 1.7 M's. And the paragraph, I would do 1 M, maybe 0.8 M, 0.9, okay. And so if we go back to here, we should be using M's. Oh, okay. M's. So this one just, yeah, 0.9 M. Make it a little bit smaller. 0.875 M. Yeah, so you would just use M's, and then for the width and the height too. So like using M's, you can now scale the site, and the font will stay large. But you would also want to apply M's to like all the other units and stuff like that. So if you haven't seen it, it's the wizardry method. I just covered it very briefly right now, but definitely check out my other live streams. Like, let me see some good ones that I covered. So I haven't, let's see here. Yeah, check out these two, creating a hero section using grid and the wizardry method, and this one here, creating a slider with the wizardry method, and this one too. Anything that says the wizardry method, definitely check it out. You can also check it out here, wizardry, and it's just a really cool way to make things scalable for really large screens, if that's what your client is looking for. All right, cool. So let me check my email. We can go into super chats now. I'm just gonna check my email really quick. And let's see, here we go. Cool, I have the site here, so it's Chris. So Chris, did you drop a super chat? Yeah, so the links don't work in the super chat, Kavita. So if you want to just send me the link via the contact page right here, just send the link via this contact page and I'll be able to see it in email. So Firol, he's the only one that dropped a super chat, but I don't see any question from him or her. So yeah, so Kavita, if you want me to look at your site, definitely just drop me a super chat if you want me to review the site. And I've sent it. Okay. Yep, Ghostless. I have the email. So Chris, I'm guessing, yeah, you're Chris. But yeah, any reviews do require super chat, because it is more of a specialized kind of review. But if we don't get other questions, I might just quickly take a look at it for you on the live stream. But yeah, super chats are definitely appreciated for anything specific to your project or any assistance with personal projects. Because yeah, super chats, they help support the channel and they help me to continue to give, you know, these free live streams. Nice. Cool. So I don't know, is your name Firol too? Because that's the only super chat I've received so far. So we'll just give it a minute. So let's, yeah, so we went over the build, and yeah, there doesn't seem like any questions. There aren't any questions around the build, and yeah, we're just here at the general Webflow discussion and super chat. Nice. So yeah, that was definitely a fun build. You know, actually I made the interaction a bit faster here, but yeah, so, very responsive, and yeah, cool. So we'll just give it a second. Also, I might add buttons don't work yet because I didn't put the content, so it's only the design mostly to be reviewed. All right, cool. Yeah, Ghostless. I'll go ahead and review it. No worries. So this is Ghostless site, and if you feel so inclined to drop me a super chat, please do, because yeah, these are more specialized cases. All right, so right away I can see this is a template, and yeah, Flowbase is a great kind of resource that a lot of Webflow users use, and yeah, so because it's a template, I'm not sure how much I can assist really. If you just swapped out the illustrations look great. If these are your personal illustrations, I really like them. But yeah, so like, let me go to these different pages. These pages don't link out to anything. Yeah, they're not clickable. Sorry for all that noise back there. Yeah, so none of this is clickable. It looks like just the layout. So is this a template, Chris? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a template, but is there anything in particular you want me to look at? So you wrote the buttons, okay, you wrote that the buttons don't work yet because I didn't put the content, so it's only the design mostly to be reviewed. Yeah, as far as design, like I'd probably add more spacing here between these cards and this illustration. Yeah, that was a loud airplane. And I'm using a different mic, so I'm gonna hear how I sound after the live stream because my main mic here actually isn't working in OBS, so I have to fix that today because I just updated OBS. Yeah, so I would put more spacing here between this illustration. And this red is throwing me off. Like, I'm not sure of your color palette, but these red icons don't seem to go with anything else. Or actually, yeah, I do see, it feels like there's two secondary colors. Like there's this blue color and a red color as the secondary colors, and I'm guessing this darker blue is your primary color. So the text being this primary blue and this text being blue, I like that. But I would make these icons blue as well, because the red is throwing me off a little bit. So I would make these blue to match the styling of your site. Yeah, testimonials, like see, like the accents of blue look good. This is okay, these cards having different colors because they're blog categories, so I don't mind that. Yeah, as far as design, I have nothing really to critique. It just seems like a really nice template that was used, and you just swapped out kind of the illustrations. The illustrations are lovely. They're really great. Yeah, for sure. And so this one is a template and position them for automobile website for people like 30 plus to be simple for them. Yeah, it's great. Like the layout is fantastic. You know, it's a great template, and the illustrations are awesome. I don't know if the illustrations came with the template, but they're great. This part's great. Not much to critique really. You picked a great template. If that's probably the only thing I can say about it. And yeah, some spacing. Just add more spacing here maybe. And the responsiveness, I'm sure it's going to be great because it is a template. Yeah, that looks fantastic. Oh, so here, this looks like it's positioned to absolute. So you want to maybe set this to relative so that the content goes below the image and not behind it. So you just want to play with this, maybe some relative positioning so that these two aren't overlapping and the image goes at the top. And that looks good. Yeah, I would probably make this text here smaller because I can't distinguish between this text at the top and this text here. So you want a bit more hierarchy as far as like the text sizing. So this is the most important, then the paragraph, and then you have these smaller little elements. So the text could be a bit smaller, I think maybe here. Or thinner, maybe not make them bold. That depends, you know, if you wanted this to be the most important, I might make this lighter because these two are kind of competing for my attention. So this heading and these bold elements are competing, I feel, for my attention. So you want the user to like get the most important, second important, and then maybe third most important, using font weight and sizing to kind of create that hierarchy of importance between elements that are viewable here. This card looks good. Don't mind that. Again, I would just change the color for the icons. This is okay. The spacing is a little bit off, I feel. You can probably adjust the spacing here. Maybe bring it closer. This red arrow is throwing me off. I'd make that blue, like a lighter blue. That looks fine, the testimonial section. This looks okay. Excuse me. Yeah, looks good. Yeah, it's a good template. Flow-based makes amazing stuff, so definitely. All right, awesome. I think that's all I can give really as far as critique. Maybe just work on the spacing, some of the hierarchy of the text in some areas, and maybe on mobile, just make sure your elements don't overlap. And yeah, I would focus on spacing definitely. It feels like with some of the sections, the text could use a bit more attention. As far as like, yeah, no, the text is good. I like the text in most areas. But the red throws me off, and that's about it. And I might, yeah, I don't know. I might work on the balance between the size of the illustration and the text. Like here, I think it's okay. Here, I feel maybe the images could be a bit smaller, because again, the text and the illustration are competing to me, and I can't. Everything just feels a little bit too big and relative to each other. I don't know how to explain that, but maybe work with the sizing a little bit so that the text and illustrations aren't competing as much. That might help the design a bit. So these illustrations maybe add more spacing away from the text, make them a bit smaller. So I get the idea of the illustration, but I can also read the text without feeling like this is grabbing all my attention. Yeah, but that's just a minor thing. I'm not even sure. You just have to maybe experiment with that. I would experiment because again, I don't know. I'd have to go in and try it myself. But like if let me go into the code here, and for example, for this image, I'd probably make it I'm just experimenting here. Yeah, maybe 30, something like that, you know, like where the icon's a little bit smaller and then the text is kind of takes precedence a little bit. So it's not really competing with the text, something like that. But yeah, that's just kind of a subjective thing too, kind of what you're going for. But I just feel like a few elements are kind of competing for my attention as I look at the site. So white space is good too. Like you definitely want to put a bit more white space between elements so I can make clear distinctions as I'm looking at the site. Like my eyes have some time to rest as I'm scrolling through. I'm not just bombarded with content, like, because it does seem like a lot of content to sift through. Like I have these cards, this illustration, more text, you know. So spacing it out maybe a bit more, even adding more spacing between each section might help, just to give it some more breathing room to the site. It's like a table or like any type of design. Like if you clutter your table with a lot of stuff, different things are going to be competing. But if you have a nicely organized table and every element has its own place on the table looks nice, right? Like you have your different objects on the table and it creates a more kind of visually pleasing design. Cool. Yeah, and a lot of the text has bold Yeah, so I would work on that, maybe the contrast between bold and not bold text. Yeah, so yeah, just feels like a lot of bold competing, maybe not enough white space on the site, even though it does seem like there's a lot of white space, but maybe because the spacing between elements isn't so pronounced, it looks a little bit cluttered. The other thing I'm noticing too, let me see here. So we have 2 cards, we have 6 cards, 2 cards, 3 cards, 3 columns, 3 cards, 3 cards. Yeah, um, I feel like there's a bit of cohesion lacking as well, because each section has a different feel almost. 2 cards, 6 cards. Yeah, I don't know. I think it might need a bit more cohesion as far as like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a little bit more of a story, right? It needs a bit more of a story as I'm scrolling. Because here I see text on the left, image on the right, 2 cards, then logos, and then 6 cards. Like the story isn't completely defined. As I scroll through a site, I like to start building a story in my mind. And if all I'm seeing is different layouts, I'm not getting like a clear mental idea of what the story of the site is. I just see like different sections that I could possibly click on. All right, hopefully that made sense. I did go over that in detail. But yeah, a lot of what I'm saying is kind of subjective too, so like just take it with a grain of salt, and if it can help, awesome. So we got another form submission from Kevin. Kavita. So yeah, let's take a look. Awesome. So, oh, the link didn't work. Kevin. So Chris sent me this other one. Okay, cool. So again, Chris, just reviewing this site. Yeah, it's a template as well. Yeah, it's cool. You can tell it's a template. I guess that's probably the biggest takeaway. You can tell it's a template. In a way, yeah. Actually, I might like this one better, to be honest. I like this one better because I feel the sections are more aligned to each other. Like, okay, like right away I'm starting to see, what's the word? Not, what's the word I'm looking for? Cohesion, is it cohesion? Consistency, that's it. More consistency between this, like what I'm seeing. So I see illustration, I see another illustration. This section feels similar to this one, so I'm getting the idea. This one again with the illustration on the right. So I definitely like this one more. It has a lot more consistency and it creates more of a story in my mind. Like with this illustration here on the right, my mind is just, it likes that idea of consistency and repetition as I'm going through the site. It creates a more unified feeling for the site. And also the colors are, you're only using like 2 colors, a primary and a secondary color. There's no, there's some hints of yellow here, but that's part of the illustration, so it's kind of cool. Yeah, I definitely like this one more. There's not really much I can say about it. It's a template, so it looks great. And it looks like it's from FinSuite, so yeah, good stuff. If anything, I would say maybe get, like, I don't know how familiar you are with Webflow, but it seems like you're just using a few templates here, but the more you can familiarize yourself with Webflow, the better you can kind of customize these different templates. And you're probably pretty good with Webflow already, but yeah, sometimes it's good just to customize templates a bit more. But I think you did a good job here. I'm not sure what the template looked like before, but you did a good job with the illustration. If you're an illustrator, I really like your illustrations. They're great. Awesome. So Kavita, I think it's Kevin. The link you sent me to your OK Design site does not work. So if you can just drop the webflow.io link, I'd be happy to take a look. But yeah, it looks like we're at time. Yeah, but that was cool. Thank you for sharing that, Ghostless, Chris. Appreciate it. So yeah, hopefully you learned something in this live stream. This build will be available in my profile. So you can go to webdevforyou.com, go to interactions, and it'll take you to my profile. And all the builds that I create on these live streams are available here for you to clone and kind of see what I did and see the structure of the site. All right, Kavita, so we are over time. Anybody feel free to drop out. You know, I don't want you to stay after one if, you know, if it's not necessary, or if you have other things to do, definitely feel free. Cool. So Kevin sent this site. So what was the question? You wanted me to review it. Okay, Kevin. So yeah, this needs a bit of work for sure. Don't know how long you've been using Webflow, but that's okay. We all start somewhere, so don't feel like I'm saying bad things or being harsh, you know. But yeah, this feels a little bit out of place. I'll just quickly go through and polish this up a little bit, and you can just see how I build. I'm not going to describe everything, but just take a look at some of the things I do, and you'll get a better idea of how you can approach your build. So the first thing, this should be a heading, not a paragraph. So if this is the most important part of the site, which is usually in the hero section, you want it to be a heading. So I would just, you know, so we have the container, that's good. I would add a heading and paste that text in there. And then for this slide, I see you have a linear gradient. I might add some opacity to this linear gradient. So for the colors, they're a bit bold. So I would just set the alpha maybe to 40 or something like that. Or yeah, because it's hard to see the image behind the gradient. So I'm not sure if the image is having a real impact. Like I would either just use the gradient or try to, or maybe change the color of the text here to white, right? So there's a bit more contrast. And then for this linear gradient, yeah, I would maybe try to make it a little bit lighter and just move the gradient here, something like this, just so we can get a feel for the image, right? Because it'll give you an idea there. Yeah, so great. Super cool that you've joined the live stream. Also, Chris, yeah, 3 months isn't a long time, especially to learn web design and development concepts. So kudos to both of you for, you know, sticking with it and learning Webflow. Cool. So yeah, this looks like a slide as well. So let me just go through. Yeah, so same thing. I would work on these gradients. That might be too many gradients, right? So when you're designing, you know, maybe try researching style guides. So website, this could be a good place to start. So you're not always picking different gradients and different colors. So just type in like website style guide, and you can look at some images of style guides, right? So like here's a style guide with a color palette, different headers and a paragraph. You know, here's another style guide, few colors, and you'll be amazed at what a style, like how helpful a style guide is, because all of a sudden your design will look amazing because you're like, okay, I'm just using a few colors and all of my elements are within the bounds of those colors. So like here we have some colors, we have buttons, some headings, and text. So you'll see me in my live streams, I cover going over a style guide first before building, and that just helps with the overall build. You know, you can style global tags in Webflow, you can create global swatches to help you build, right? So that's where I would start with this. I might even kind of nix some of these gradients at the beginning. I know gradients are really cool initially, but if you have too many of them, it just throws off kind of the design a little bit, right? Okay, so here we have a paragraph. Yeah, that's okay. So let me look at the structure of the site. So we have the nav bar. So what I would do here, I would kind of restructure it a little bit. So for the body, so I can see you added sections down here. That's good. So we have this section and this section. We have columns. I personally don't like using columns. I like using Flexbox a bit more. But yeah, Flexbox to me is a little bit more powerful. So we have this section. What is this section here? So I would actually, for the body, let me add another section, and I would place, yeah, the nav bar up here. Yeah, section. I would put the slider in this section, just so you could, you know, distinguish it, and just to stay organized, I'd call this slider section. And yeah, this I'm not sure what's going on here, because it's like it's in the container. I might center this, I don't know. Yeah, I might do something like that. Yeah, it depends. I don't know what alignment I would use for this. If it was to be at the left, I'd want it to be more to the left. And this container, the default Webflow container is fairly small. So for hero sections, like, you know, I might give the container, I like using 1440, or you can use 1200. You know, just make it a little bit larger. And then I could probably do something like that, so it's a little bit more to the left. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure, and I'd probably find some inspiration too, because I'm not sure where, like, if you had a previous design. Another thing to keep in mind, it might be helpful to design the site first in like Figma. So like here you can see I'm basing my builds off these Figma files, which makes it super easy to build the site. If you just start building in Webflow, things can get really convoluted very quickly, because you're just starting adding div blocks, and you're not going to be sure how the div block should be styled, and it just leads to a site that doesn't have a clear structure. So I would start with Figma. You can open up a free Figma account if you don't already have one, and just try building your site in Figma first, and then bringing it into Webflow, and use things like Pinterest or different website inspiration. Like you can type in website inspiration Webflow, and you know, Webflow has a great article on different places to find website inspiration, and just take a look. I mean, you don't have to copy anything, but just take a look at how other people design their sites, and you know, try emulating that in Figma, designing it in Figma, and then bringing it into Webflow. Because right now, like, I'm looking at it, there's a slider, there's this section, and you know, there's a space here. I'm not sure why that space is there, but like the padding, you have 220, I would remove that padding, and then there's margin to this, so I would remove that. So those are the things that start to happen if you don't have like a, you know, a clear design initially in Webflow. Like, you'll just start adding margin and padding where there might not need to be margin and padding. So for this, instead of columns, I would use Flexbox. Take a look at some of my previous live streams. I covered Flexbox in great detail. I covered it today in great detail, where I did create a similar layout with a section on the left and a section on the right. But rather than, you know, 50% on each side, I use 60 and 40. So, and you can use grid. I cover grid a lot in my live streams as well. Yeah, so we have this website price plan. So I can see these look like H3 headings. So, okay, so you have a heading. Yeah, this is interesting. Typically, I like to put a heading in a div block. I don't like to have the heading be the entire section, if that makes sense. So I can see this heading has padding of 100 and 100, and that created this entire section. So that's not really a best practice to use a heading as a section. You want to put the heading inside of a div block, and then you have more control over how and where you want to position the heading, and it just makes things a little bit more flexible, even for designing responsively. Because when I get to tablet, it doesn't look bad, but I might want to change the design a bit on tablet, and I don't want to be changing kind of the padding here. I'd rather just use kind of layout settings to move elements around. So yeah, maybe tomorrow, Kevin, I might help you like just build these with Flexbox. We can go over that so you can get an idea of how I would approach this using Flexbox, and then we can make it responsive on tablet and mobile. This part's nice. You know, you did a good job here with the context section. You definitely want more contrast between the text and the background color because they're both gray, so it doesn't create a lot of contrast. So I would just do, you know, something like pick a different color. Maybe like if the text is darker, maybe a brighter color or something like that. Or just, you know, create a bit more contrast between your text and your background. So this text is a little bit too light, this dim gray. You know, I would just make it darker, and then you can pick a different color for the background. Great job on the social media icons. This looks great. And then we have the logo, OK Design. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and undo the color change here. But yeah, the main takeaways I would say, I know you've only been with Webflow for about 2 months. I would say start researching style guides and start building a style guide for your site and a possible theme and style for the site. Like, how do you want your sections to be built? You know, like you probably just don't want text like this across the site because it doesn't have much design going for it. But I would get inspiration from like Dribbble, Pinterest, you know, just a Google search. This Webflow blog showcases different design inspiration and things like that. So I say great job initially getting started with Webflow. You know, hopefully you took something away from my live stream today on how I approach the build. But yeah, so I can see you're starting with sections. That's great. You do want containers. Okay, so you have containers. That's good. So yeah, you're starting to get the structure of the site down, which is great. You have your sections and your container. That is awesome. So great job there. Footer, social link. That's a great job. So yeah, I would say just keep going. You know, keep watching maybe Webflow University videos. Keep coming back to the live streams, and yeah, and it takes practice. You know, nothing that you want to get good at comes easy overnight. But you know, I'm trying to provide as much help as I can in these live streams, and just share as much, you know, info that I've accrued over the years in web design and development, and working with Webflow for over 3 years now, and having worked at Webflow for a couple years. Like, just want to impart some knowledge to anyone building. So yeah, come back tomorrow, Kevin. I'll spend a bit more time with your site, and we can just build a quick layout in Flexbox. We are over time by 15 minutes. I don't usually like going over that long, but definitely wanted to help out. Chris and Kevin, thank you so much for sharing your sites. It definitely helps all of us learn, and yeah, it's you know, that's how we learn. You know, we don't become web designers and developers overnight. It takes practice. One thing I will say for both of you, if you're interested, and this helped me immensely, right? Because a lot of times we just want to jump into web development because, you know, either it's easy or we feel we can build a responsive site quickly. I would recommend going to resources on my site and check out Learn UI Design. Learn UI Design is a course by Erik Kennedy where he goes over user interface design. And that's probably the most important part of a site, is the user interface. Like, you know, my site is very basic. You know, I had a different site, but I just made a very basic site, you know, like very clean and minimal. But there's many different ways to approach a build, and yeah, with Learn UI Design, you get to understand like why typography, color, and alignment is so important, right? Because it visually creates a much more pleasing design for your site. So if you're interested, check it out. It is a paid course, but it helped me immensely. I finished pretty much the entire course. I think I didn't do the responsive design one at the end because I had worked in Webflow for so much, but I will finish that as well. Cool. So awesome. Yeah, thanks everyone for sticking around, for joining. Yeah, it was very fun building in Webflow. It's always fun building in Webflow. Tomorrow I'll pick another layout and we'll build it. Sorry for all these Slack messages, I keep getting notified. But tomorrow we'll build something else here. I'll pick a wireframe from here and we'll build. Maybe we'll add a Google map, that may be cool. Or maybe this testimonial section. We'll see. All right, thanks everyone for watching. And let me go back to the site here. And I will see you in tomorrow's live stream. Thanks, Kevin and Chris. Appreciate the super chats. And have a great rest of the day. Thank you. Peace.